Welcome to today's webinar on sustainability reporting, integrating the forest metrics with FSC. My name is Andrei Tarabus, and I'm delighted to have you with us and to explore how forest-related data and impacts measurements can meaningfully connect with corporate sustainability reporting frameworks. Over the next 1 hour or so, we will be looking at why reporting on nature and forest is becoming increasingly important, how global standards like GRI and other frameworks are evolving, and how FSC ecosystem services work can help companies to demonstrate credible science-based impact. Our aim is to help you to better understand how sustainability reporting is shifting from activities like measuring carbon footprints towards capturing broader nature positive outcomes, especially those connected with forests. To delve into this topic, I will have two wonderful experts with me today. Elodie Shen, the Senior Standards Manager from Global Reporting Initiative, and Patricio Persini, Director Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services at Fundación Huella para un Futuro. After a short introduction, we will have the chance to look into very details of GRI reporting, focusing on biodiversity with Elodie. And then following, we will be looking at the new FSC tool to identify how FSC ecosystem service claims can help companies from different sectors to report. But before that, and thank you for moving that, I would like to just start with some housekeeping items. First of all, the webinar is being translated to Spanish, so in case you prefer that language, you can click on the three dots down below, and under interpretation, you can change the language, whatever you prefer. The microphones have been turned off for everyone during the main presentation, just to minimize the background noise and help everyone stay focused. And also, the webinar is being recorded. This means that you can revisit the session later on or share with your colleagues who couldn't attend. Finally, there is also a Q&A section. And we would be happy to receive any questions you might have, or you can upvote questions which are in the Q&A section, and we will be happy to take the questions at the end. So let me start. So just a short introduction. Well, when we talk about sustainability reporting today, it's no longer just a matter of goodwill or corporate social responsibility. It's really becoming a strategic necessity. Global expectations have shifted. Regulators, investors, or consumers are asking companies to prove their environmental and social performance, not just describe it, right? And to meet this expectation, companies must align with the reporting with robust international frameworks that ensure consistency, comparability, and credibility. So frameworks such as Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, TNFD, or SBTN, or sustainability reporting standards like GRI or CDP are driving this transformation. They help organizations to understand not only their climate impact, but also their dependencies on impacts on nature, including forest, water, or biodiversity. For FSC, this really represents a challenge, but also a major opportunity. We are aiming to connect these verified field-level data, which we are already having on ecosystem services, with the needs of the companies reporting under these frameworks. But let's take a step back and remind ourselves why this alignment is actually so important. So our natural resources are not unlimited, and we are consuming every time more of these resources. Just yesterday, I saw statistics that in last 20 years, we have consumed 20% more energy and 18% more non-renewable energy. And also, like, more than half of the global GDP depends directly on nature and its services, right? So we all depend on the resources, which we are consuming more and more. At the same time, we can see that many ecosystems are collapsing. The statistics says that this could translate into a loss over 2.7 trillion US dollar annually by 2030. And forests, in particular, play a central role in this. They regulate water, they store carbon, they support biodiversity, and they also sustain millions of livelihoods. But as the pressure increases, we need robust data and transparent reporting systems to ensure that both governments and corporates are managing these resources responsibly. For companies, this means taking accountability not only on their direct operations, so what they directly impact, but also on their entire value chains, including landscapes and the whole sourcing regions that they depend on. So without credible data, it becomes impossible to set targets, to track progress, or demonstrate impact. And that's exactly where frameworks like GRI and systems like FSC comes together. So many companies today have committed to ambitious ESG goals. They are setting targets to reduce emissions and zero or deforestation-free supply chains, protecting biodiversity, or promote sustainable sourcing in general. But commitments alone are, of course, not enough. We need to see the results. And to prove the impact, we need evidence-based data. Typically, their approach is through two complementary pathways. The first would be optimizing the impacts within their own value chain, for example, by reducing the deforestation risk, improving the traceability, or restoring the degraded land. And second is going beyond their value chain through contribution mechanisms, such as supporting verified conservation or restoration projects. And this dual approach, acting both within and beyond value chain, allows companies to demonstrate holistic responsibility for nature and climate. Both pathways rely on credible reporting and disclosure frameworks to make results visible, verifiable, and comparable. And we will be looking at this with Elodie later on. But as companies are increasingly reporting on their ESG progress, one major challenge remains. And that is how to ensure that the data behind their claims is robust, transparent, and verifiable. And that's why alignment with established standards is a key. Reporting is no longer just box-ticking exercise. It's the bridge between the corporate commitment and the actual on-the-ground performance. So the high-quality, evidence-based reporting help companies demonstrate the real impact on the sustainability investments, but also to comply with emerging regulations and disclosure requirements, for example, EU CSRD or TNFD recommendations and so forth. And importantly, also avoid the growing reputational risks associated with greenwashing. So in this context, forest-related metrics are often missing from corporate disclosures. FSC data on carbon storage, water regulation, biodiversity enhancement, and other ecosystem services can really help to fill this gap by providing scientifically sound information that connects the local forest outcomes and the global sustainability goals. So, and FSC have been providing the tool to measure the positive impacts of forest for years through its ecosystem service procedure. The framework provides transparent, evidence-based data, and these data are audited and are credible in eyes of both the market and the regulators. And now we are doing the next step by aligning the ecosystem service metrics with global disclosure frameworks like GRI, CDP, TNFD, or SBTN, so that we can help companies to allocate the impacts into their reporting and allow them to report credibly and in a way that can be linked with the reporting frameworks. It also provides companies with outcomes or interpreted results and detailed claims that can be used with stand scrutiny and help companies to prevent the accusations of greenwashing. So in short, FSC provides the bridge between forest impact measurement and the global sustainability reporting. And with this, I would close here and I would invite Elodie to dive into the GRI standard, but also provide us a bit of overview of the general map of the reporting frameworks.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So I'm Elodie Chen, the Biodiversity Lead at GRI, and I'll be sharing, as Andrzej mentioned, how the GRI standards support transparent, credible sustainability reporting, especially today when it comes to nature and biodiversity, give an overview of who we are, how GRI fits into the global reporting landscape, and how our nature-related standards, in particular our new GRI 101 on biodiversity, helps companies make their impact visible and actionable. So who we are. GRI is an independent international organization that provides the global common language for corporate transparency. Our mission is really to help organizations understand and communicate the sustainability impact on the economy, on the environment, and on people. And we do this through the GRI standards, which are the world's most widely used sustainability reporting standard. They are developed through a robust multi-stakeholder approach. We do not judge performance per se, so we do not set a threshold for good or bad performance in our disclosures, but we enable transparency on a company's activities with regard to sustainable development and how they progress over time. So those standards are freely available as a public good and translated into multiple languages as well to ensure global accessibility. So here you can see some examples of our impacts in numbers. I won't cover them all, but you can see that today our standards are used by 77% of the world's 250 largest companies and by thousands of other organizations worldwide. And also beyond voluntary use, GRI is also referenced in laws or regulation in 128 countries where the standards are recommended or required. They were also one of the foundation for the ESRS standards developed by the European Union as well when it comes to impact reporting. So this broad adoption demonstrated the trust, the recognition of GRI as the global reference for impact-based sustainability reporting. And that leads me to my next slide, which shows where we sit within the broader sustainability reporting ecosystems, where you can see that there are mainly two different but complementary approaches to reporting. One focusing on financial materiality, which focus on information that is mostly relevant to investors. So next to the traditional financial reporting, there's also sustainability disclosures for financial market covered by the ISSB standards, basically, and which covers how sustainability topics create risks or opportunities affecting enterprise values. And next to it, the complementary lens is the materiality approach focusing on impact materiality, which focuses on the outward impacts of an organization on the economy, on the environment, on people. And that is relevant to a broader range of stakeholders, including investors, but also governments, civil society, and that's the space that GRI covers. And when you look at these two global standard setters, ISSB and GRI, together we are complementary, and reporting under these two standards enable, both standards are essential for accountability, for understanding how business is affected by, but also contributes to sustainable development or sustainability, in order to then better inform companies' decision making. When it comes to nature and ecosystem and biodiversity at large, so we also work to ensure alignment across all the different nature-related frameworks, initiatives, and standards. We do not claim to create best practice, but we aim to build on international intergovernmental instruments and capture the established or emerging best practice when it comes to a particular topic like nature or biodiversity. So here we engage closely with the TNFD, with the Nature Positive Initiative, SBTN, and others to ensure interoperability, consistency across all of us, and also making sure that we ensure consistency with the Global Biodiversity Framework as well. So the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And as I explained earlier, we also work with the ISSB to create a global baseline for biodiversity and ecosystem reporting, which also inform jurisdictional and market regulations. So so that was a bit of a context, and I'll move on to how the GRI standard per se, what they cover and how they can help you reporting on your activities. So the GRI standard, as you can see on that slide, form a modular system that include universal, sector, and topic standards. And organizations select the relevant standards based on their material topics, which is the issues where they have the most significant impacts. And currently there are 32 topic standards, several of which relate to nature, ecosystem services such as biodiversity, water, or waste. And today, I'll primarily focus on the biodiversity standard, GRI 101, which we launched in January 2024, and which will become effective as of January 2026, so very soon, just to highlight some example of what it enables you to report. Both covering that impact management as well as that contribution mechanism that Andrej mentioned earlier. So some of the key features of that standard and the revised disclosure that we've published is that that standards enable companies to report impact across the supply chain and not only the direct operation. Disclosure focus on the most significant impact on biodiversity, because we know that for some companies, including those with very complex supply chain, reporting on all of the biodiversity footprint is very difficult. It requires location-specific information because biodiversity is inherently place-based, and it includes as well new disclosures on direct drivers of biodiversity loss, changes in the state of biodiversity, impact on people such as indigenous peoples and local communities resulting from an organization's impact on biodiversity. So looking at the ecosystem services and beneficiary of the services that are affected, as well as management disclosures emphasizing accountability for how those impacts are addressed. So very practically, how do companies can report on biodiversity using GRI? And you can see here on this slide that the biodiversity standard includes 8 disclosures that together enable companies to report comprehensively on the topic. And I'll focus on 3 examples today, which are the one highlighted with this orange box on the slide. And starting with one topic management disclosure, so that disclosure 101-1, that covers the policies to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. So that disclosure looks at the organization's policies and commitment. It asks, how are those policies and commitments informed by the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework? What goals and targets has the organization set? And this helps understand basically the organization's strategic intent and basis for its action. Basically, it also includes, you can see if you deep dive in the guidance, some example of how a company can report a target, reduce deforestation linked to its activities or progress towards its targets. The second disclosure that I wanted to highlight was disclosure 101-2, relating to the management of the biodiversity impact, which focuses on how biodiversity impacts are managed using the mitigation hierarchy. So it includes avoidance measure, restoration and rehabilitation actions, any biodiversity offset used with quality criteria around those offsets, any transformative actions, driving systemic change and additional conservation action. And it also enables companies to report on synergies and trade-offs between biodiversity and climate measure and explain how they minimize negative impact and enhance positive impact on people. So recognizing that link between biodiversity and human well-being. And so again, you've seen the guidance, we haven't highlighted here, but you see some example, for example, of what additional conservation action can be reported under there, which go beyond the direct management of impact within the company's operational supply chain, right? So that's, for example, that's where a company can report if they invest in a conservation project that they may be doing in collaboration with a third party like an NGO, or if they're promoting particular sustainability practices. But again, that should be reported within the mitigation hierarchy, that is as a complement, but not a substitute for managing their own impact. And then the last disclosure in that standard that I wanted to highlight is a disclosure 101-6 that covers direct drivers of biodiversity loss, where organizations can report their contributions to these direct drivers. So not necessarily all 5 of them, but only those that are relevant to its activities and its supply chain, right? Just to ensure focus and relevance of the information that is reported. So that include land use change, exploitation of resources, climate change, pollution, and invasive alien species. And that's obviously where companies can report on how they contribute to land use change, such as deforestation. And for that particular requirements on land use change, their guidance draw very heavily or is strongly informed by the work of the IFI, Accountability Framework Initiatives on Natural Ecosystem Conversion, which you may be familiar with. So we actually have examples in our guidance on specific reference of cutoff dates to FSC programs, for example, or the relevant programs. So that also, again, help create that link between any monitoring or implementation programs that company may have, and how that can also inform the public, the sustainability reporting afterwards. And then before closing, I also wanted to give you a brief update on another major GRI project that is currently underway. So that's the revision of our economic performance standard, GRI 201, and you'll understand why in a minute. This is now proposed to become a GRI monetary flow standard. And the disclosures in that standard aim to improve transparency on how organizations generate, distribute, and use economic value that they generate, including in ways that may affect the environment or communities. So, for example, it helps company explain how the value generated or economic flow contribute to environmental or social outcome, which can be complementary to the reporting under other topic disclosures, just as the biodiversity standards I just mentioned. So, for example, they can explain if they invest in any particular conservation or restoration project, or any awareness program, or other environmental program. So again, that can support any either impact management or contribution mechanism that you may be involved with. So there's a public consultation ongoing at the moment. It's open until the 17th of December. All of the information is on our website. There's a hyperlink here if you get the slides afterwards. So if you're interested in providing feedback on all or part of this standard, we definitely welcome it. We need inputs. And just to make so that draft a bit more concrete, just as my last slide, I just included here an example of a sustainability report of a company that has been published a couple of years ago, and which shows how a company can disclose the distribution of its economic value. So you see at the center, how they provide a breakdown of how the value generated is distributed across stakeholders, including communities and the environment. And the right-hand side, you can also see a further breakdown or split of that information across the environment and local communities. So again, if you want to comment on our draft standard, please reach out. We very much welcome So I'll stop here for now. Thank you very much for your information. I realize this was a lot of information in a short time, but I hope that gives you a clear sense of how GRI helps organizations report meaningfully on these topics. And well, I look forward to the questions later. But now I'll hand it back to Andrzej.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elodie. That was indeed super informative. It was, yeah, I mean, it's also show a bit like how complex these like reporting activities might become, because in fact we have touched just one of your standards, which is the biodiversity one, while there is of course a list of others as well. I did very much like that you are not saying like it's not about the good and the bad, but it's about the transparent reporting, right? So that's yeah, indeed the common goal here. Is also impressive, like how many companies are already on board and reporting with GRI. It was also quite interesting, and we could maybe spend some time later on it, like how you are looking at the impact, and how like other like actors are looking into the dependency on the nature, right? So that the companies are of course like having some impacts, but they're also like having some dependencies which might actually then create certain risks for them or opportunities. But yeah, I'm looking forward for later on for some discussion at the end. And now, before I hand over to Patricio, I just yeah, wanted to stress out once again the need of more harmonization between all these activities whenever it is, in our case, forest management certification, or is it the ecosystem service procedure and the claims and the outcomes coming from the forest. and the need that all these activities somehow speaks together, and there is a clear link between the international trends, including the reporting standards and different frameworks, but also the auditing work, which is already being done on the ground, and the standard structure, so that the details are kind of operating. And with this, and Elodie also mentioned it, that GRI kind of has integrated or taken into the account different more like international standards or agreements. And there was a bit like exactly what FSC with the new ecosystem service procedure done as well. So we've been looking at Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and the targets and how our impacts are talking with the GBF targets. But we have also done the benchmark with different frameworks like TNFD or SBTN, which are mentioned here on the slide, but also on the standards like GRI or CDP or Greenhouse Gas Protocol. And that's exactly what I would like to invite Patricio to cover it for us and to speak a bit about this work, because that was exactly what Patricio and the team was helping us with, and we are very happy to see the results. Patricio, to you.
Thank you, Andre. Hi, everyone. It's a really pleasure to be here. I'm going to introduce the ES Pro benchmarking tool. This is an Excel matrix that links each ecosystem service from carbon, biodiversity, soil conservation, watershed services, recreational services, cultural services, and air quality with the corresponding sections of the leading global frameworks. At my right, there's a quick video that you will be able to access from this webinar with the full guidance that shows how this tool works. It's really simple. It's with filters. You start selecting your stakeholder type. This could be, for example, a forest manager, a chain of custody certificate holder, or any other sector, such as aquaculture, apparel, beverage, food and agriculture, oil and gas. Once you select your stakeholder type, then you can select your scope of influence. This could be, in the case of a forest manager, you can select forest management units. If you are a company, you can select within value chain or beyond value chain. And also, in the case that you select beyond value chain, you can select with or without materiality and within or outside sourcing region. Once you selected your stakeholder type and your scope of influence, then you can select the standards and frameworks you are using. This could be, for example, GRI, Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosure, CDP, IFRS, Science-Based Target Network. So this is a quick video that shows how the tool works. This is a video that is 3 to 5 minutes long, so you will be able to access after this webinar. You start selecting your stakeholder type, then your scope, then your standards and frameworks. You can select more than one standard, and also you have the option to select different ecosystem service impacts or any. If you select any, you will be able to have a quick overview of all the standards that are aligned and the specific standard sections. So what are the benefits or the uses of this tool? First of all, it maps each ecosystem service to the relevant global sections, as I told before. This is also useful for integration into ESG reports, certifications, assurance processes, materiality analysis, and risk assessments. It's also a practical tool to operationalize the mitigation hierarchy, guiding avoid, reduce, restore, and offset actions, and also additional conservation actions. And these links with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework targets, and also it's useful for the Nature Positive agenda. Also, this tool provides clear, citable guidance on using ecosystem service claims. And lastly, its data can be plugged into decision useful matrix and disclosures across global frameworks. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Patricia. And yeah, we might have some questions coming, but yeah, in the meantime, I just wanted to mention that the tool is now available on FSC Connect website under the Custom Service Procedure tab. So everyone is of course free to jump in and see how we have tried to do the link in between the different impacts of FSC ecosystem services and the different frameworks for, again, like for different industries or for different type of contribution, whenever it is like within value chain or beyond value chain and so on. So there's like a lot of room to play and to understand how all these works together. So again, everyone is invited to use it. Yeah, there is the question if we can see the demo, and I might be actually, as we are having a bit of time, I could be able to share it in the and in between I find it, I would actually have one, as we are having a bit of a time, I would maybe have a question on LOD, and there would be on the topic of the dependency and the impact, right? So it's like what we are seeing a lot is that companies are indeed looking very much into their impacts. That's kind of studied a lot with the climate and looking at the footprint of the companies. And now we really see the merging activities of like reporting on more like a nature impacts and of course GRI biodiversity standard and others helped a lot to clarify like how to do and how to actually look at the impact. But it would be, if you wouldn't mind, it would be great also to hear a bit like what companies can do when it comes to look at their dependencies on nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for us, we have traditionally had this focus on impacts, which we see as well as the sort of first step for a company to understand the sort of dependency and the risk, right? And usually an impact may not lead to a risk immediately, but over time, they are all likely to become a risk, either to the company itself or to another company. We sort of touch on the dependency. So we have a disclosure that in the biodiversity standard that covers ecosystem services, in the sense that we ask companies to list any ecosystem services that are or may be affected and the beneficiary as well affected. So if the beneficiary is the company itself, then that can help them understand and start making that link toward understanding their dependencies on nature, on those ecosystem services. But I think if companies really want to have a fully, fledged assessment of their dependency, that's where, the TNFD can also come in complement and to have a more thorough assessment of these dependencies. And what we see, as I just mentioned earlier, that it's really that combination of impact and dependencies that help with that understanding of risks afterwards. And we have actually, with the TNFVD, we developed a series of case studies earlier this year that we published, and that shows that companies that have long-standing biodiversity management plan, typically focusing on impact, tend to show as well less residual risks that become material. So I think that we see some examples or that evidence that link.
Okay. Thanks, Elodie. Yeah, that was useful to hear. And yeah, I can try to share my screen as people are asking to see the Excel tool. I hope you can see it now. But in fact, it's a Google Doc tool in form of Excel, where, as Patricia already mentioned, like the first step would be to choose the actor, right? So like from which sector the company is actually coming in. And as mentioned, it could be the certified forest manager, but it could be something within value chain, which we would expect happening quite a lot. It could be the combination of it, but then there are a lot of different sectors on the top of it. So that would be the first step, would be kind of to choose where the organization is coming from, while the second step is to look more on the scope and that would of the impact, right? So that would be more of looking like, where is the impact actually happening? Is it like within value chain? Is it at the forest management level directly? Or is it like beyond value chain, but still within the sourcing region, but which is something what I suppose like GRI also kind of look at the sourcing region and how that is managed, or it is like without materiality and outside the sourcing region, for example. So that would be a pure contribution like outside the connection, let's say. And then there are simply the different standards which we have considered. Here you can see, well, the long list of GRI standards, at least, but also other standards. And indeed, anyone can kind of choose as many standards as they want. And finally, if they have already the FSC ecosystem service impact, then they can already go with it. Or if they still don't have, and they are interested in like how different either reporting standards or the frameworks are talking with individual impacts, then they can get the whole list and get navigated through that. So there's the functionality. I stop sharing in here. So again, everyone is invited to go and give us maybe feedback on the tool, or of course that's as the standards and frameworks are keep changing, then we plan to update this tool regularly. Okay, and now I see there are a few people who would like to maybe speak out. I don't know if the microphone can be unmute. Maybe my colleagues can help me with that.
Yes, I have already unmuted Larissa, and then I'll unmute the next one, Maharaj Muthu.
Okay. So Larissa, if you are here, you can speak now, hopefully.
I don't know why you unmute, but I don't have any question. Thank you.
Okay. I thought, okay. And who was, I didn't catch who was the second person with the hand raised, but
The second one is Maharaj Muthu.
okay, not sure. Anyway, if any of you have further questions, then please feel free to use the Q&A box.
We have one more question, Andre, in the Q&A. It is if the methodologies for aligning FSC with other standards has been verified. I think they mean for this tool.
Yeah. Not really. So like there was it was a simple gap analysis or an analysis of the benchmark. So maybe Patricio, if you want to also speak a bit more about details, how the the benchmark was developed, of like how was the thinking behind of each of the, like starting from the indicators to the custom service procedure. So then, yeah, you are welcome to maybe provide a bit more details on the methodology. But yeah, the short answer to the question is like the methodology or the principle was not third-party verified or whatever. It is an internal tool.
Yes, so thank you for the question. There was an analysis from the outcome indicators from each ecosystem service impact with all the standards and frameworks. And the idea was to align with that specific sections that are consistent and that correlate. There was an analysis of the GRI, Science-Based Target Network, the task force, the CDP. In the case of CDP, for example, there is a questionnaire. In the case of task force, there is the LEAP process. In the case of Science-Based Target Network, the different steps. In the case of GRI, there were different disclosures. So depending on the standard and the framework, there was the type of mapping. And just to tell, this is a first version of the tool. This will be optimized, and I think there is a lot to improve in that sense. But I think that it's a good way to showcase and have a big overview of how different ecosystem service impacts that can be, for example, for sponsors that want to verify impacts, how these connect with the different standards and frameworks, and then they can integrate into the reports. That is like the whole idea behind this tool, to take a big overview. And so this was like the analysis that was done.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Patricio. And there is one more question. If there is a drive from FSC to require FMUs to report on any of the ES Pro categories instead of making it voluntary. No, it isn't really. I mean, it is a voluntary add-on, and it will remain a voluntary add-on to our FSC forest management certification. So of course, like it was born from the need that the forest managers did need more data about their impact that are having on the ground, both what from the perspective of like what FSC is driving them to change, but also whatever like additional activities that are doing, and of course it was kind of created for the two reasons, right? To provide more information within the value chain for the actors who wants to look at their sourcing impacts, but also it was created with the objective to generate more funds for the forest managers to decrease the pressure they might be feeling from the production function of the forest. So to kind of value the ecosystem services their forests are providing to the society. So that was, but it will remain, or I would say for the foreseeable future, at least it will remain a voluntary add-on, and that's how we plan to keep it. Okay.
There's another one who's raising their hand. I'm not sure if they want to speak up, but I'm gonna allow them to talk.
Okay, there is
Teresa Falcao.
Just a comment, Ondrej, I see on the filters, this tool works in the online sheet only, because if you download it, the formulas won't work. It's better to use it if you use it online, it will work perfectly. But if you download it, it's depending on the type of Excel that you have, maybe it won't work. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it's meant to be used online after a login with your Google account. So otherwise, if you just download it to the Excel or use it without login, it might not show the filters, so it might not really be very useful for that. Okay. And with that, I don't. Yeah, the question if the several people can use the online tool at the same time. Well, Patricio, you might help me, but I would say it should be possible, right?
Yes, that's right. Maybe if you want, you can copy and use it apart, but you can also use it at the same time with other people.
Okay. Great. Okay, wonderful. And there is one more question. Again, with the can reporting after filling data. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the reporting after filling data can be then downloaded. Not sure. I mean, it should be possible, right? It will just not provide you the filtering function. So the Excel as such can be downloaded. Again, it's free to be used for everyone, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how workable it will be after the download. It's not meant to be downloaded. Okay. Good. Well, with that, I think we have used the time and we have answered most of the questions. I would very much like to thank Patricio and Elodie for sharing with us both the details about GRI, how it works, and how different sustainability standards and frameworks are working. It would of course be wonderful to hear Elodie to speak more about like more details and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have that time, but it was super useful to get a bit of understanding how the standards, like reporting standards, are being used. And it was also great to hear from Patricio about our tool, and also it was great to hear there is so much interest in the tool, and hopefully it will be used by the organizations, and it will help them to understand how the the on-site impacts can be linked with the reporting frameworks for their particular needs. And with that, I would thank you all for participation, and I would be closing the webinar now. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. See you.